Hey horror fans, thanks for joining me for this review of Paranormal Activity, Next of Kin. Cast and crew information down below, and let's start off with this IMDb plot. Margaret, a young woman who was abandoned by her mother as a baby, travels to a secluded Amish community with a documentary film crew seeking answers about her mother and extended family. Alright, I'm not sure about this film crew and whatever, but a little bit short on our whole crew, but whatever. We'll get into that in a few moments. Let's see. To start, let's go kind of to the beginning of Paranormal Activity and where this all began, because this is, I don't even know what, chapter 6, 7, I've lost a little bit of track here. But way back in the beginning, where Paranormal Activity began, let's credit it for being one of the better marketed films out there. That and Blair Witch really did a good job when they went to release those two films as far as marketing is concerned. And everybody was hyped for this movie, and you know, at its basics, it's a great idea. It's what horror fans want. It's when at its basic core, it is, bringing it down to its scares, and that's something that horror fans want. And when you look at Paranormal Activity Part One, I it took me a couple of watches really to before I really said, okay, I like this movie, or I'm okay with it. And basically because I thought that it got away from its core, or it didn't hold to its core of what it was supposed to be. And what I mean by that is okay, so you have Katie and her, this is all spoiler if you haven't seen this, and it's a long time ago, so but Katie and her boyfriend there at the time, when they're there in this house, and you're seeing everything through the cameras and the video footage there, and the scenes of her standing by the bed, and scenes of her just walking around and doing just weird stuff. Obviously something is not normal with her. That's scary stuff, and it works because you put yourself in that position to think that you're sleeping in your opposite couple, boyfriend, husband, girlfriend, whatever, might be standing beside your bed and watching you while you sleep, or just creeping around and weird stuff is happening. That's freaky stuff there, and that's why that kind of works. And then as the movie goes on, the scares get a little bit more intense, but all that works. What doesn't work, and what pissed me off about that movie, is what I called it was, at the time and when I reviewed this, was being too Hollywood, and with that was them having to build a story around it, why Katie that was that way. The whole thing with her finding the pictures in the I think it was the attic or the other room, and then having to try to figure that out. And then I think she had like a psychic try to come over, and he was like, no, there's evil in this house, or something like that. They had to build on that, and I understand. You're building on a movie. You're trying to put this in theaters. You need to fill time. But I thought, if, for those who don't know, Paranormal Activity got made because it was based off a short film, and I'm not going to say I ever saw that short film, but just imagining what that short film was, I'm sure I imagine for the effectiveness of it is it stuck to a lot of that, a lot of just the scares, and maybe a little bit away from the Hollywood side of it. And that's just an assumption of what I envisioned, and what I envisioned going into that movie. That's what I was hoping for, is sticking to the scares and not so much of this other stuff that was going on. I remember there being alternate endings to that movie, and one of the things that pissed me off was at the end of the movie where she throws the boyfriend at the camera, and then she's got to come and look at the camera and kind of give that smile. Where I wrote that off as a total Hollywood thing, and I didn't like that. I didn't think that fit what was going on there. And then, as we see Paranormal Activity roll on, and, sequel after sequel, I think they all kind of start off with being the found footage, the filming, from the security cameras or whatever, but always having to be a story to it. And, while I liked some parts and didn't like other parts, and I don't even think I saw the last one previous to this, but, there's just a lot of story going on, and using the core of it with the found footage, but just a lot of story and just getting away from what it is. And again, this is Paranormal Activity, and when I think paranormal, I think ghost and so forth. But as this goes on, you see some maybe witchcraft or some cult involved. I think it was at the end of maybe part 3 or 4. At the end, there's a whole bunch of women that show up, and I don't know, I think Paranormal Activity, I get where they're going, but I just always think first and foremost Ghost, and this just goes so far away from Ghost. Anyway, that's all my complaints about Paranormal Activity. Now leading into this one, it's they call it Next of Kin, I guess, meaning it's the next chapter. But again, my point of all this revisionist history is, did we need this movie? Did we need probably the one before, or maybe even the one before that? Probably not. And we're just getting, sticking to the core, but getting just further and further away from where all this began and who this is about and so forth. And to me, when I see this come out, and then after watching this, and I'm definitely going to get into this movie in a second, but, it just, to me, screams, we have to use the paranormal name, and let's squeeze some more money out of it. It's just why at this point. And one of the things in watching this movie is, it could have been named anything else. It really didn't need to be under the Paranormal Activity umbrella. There's just nothing there that says that this has to be under the Paranormal Activity umbrella. It doesn't. I mean, yeah, again, okay, we have found footage here. Again, this time it's filmed by the crew, but I mean, there's really no security cameras in this one. There's none of that. What's happening in part 1? There's a little bit of drone footage, but there's not even that going on here. This is all just found footage, almost similar to more Blair Witch, by having the people have their own cameras and going out and filming this, than anything. So again, you're just getting a little bit away from where this all started whatsoever. So the first point is this: basically, I'm going to be what I'm making here is that all these movies are a good idea at its core, but then as the stories go on, not that the stories are all bad, and not that I hated all of them. I liked certain ones. And definitely there were some really good scares in some of these movies. But just, as they pile on the story and all these paranormal activities, it just, I don't know, it just gets further and further away, and I don't know. But as far as this one, the first point I guess I'm going to make here is that, yeah, it could have been named Next of Kin. It could have been named, Margaret Searches for Her Family, Ghost in the Woods, Film Crew Dies, Film Crew's Doomed, any other stupid name. It really just didn't need Paranormal Activity. And again, it just, paranormal, ghost, maybe I should look up the definition of paranormal, but that's just the first thing I think of, I'm trying to be as spoiler-free as possible going into talking about Next of Kin, but is it really a ghost that is haunting them in this movie? Not really. If you want to call it, another being, you want to call it a demon, if you want to throw that into the paranormal boat, I guess then we're okay. But I don't know. I let you guys decide what you guys consider paranormal or not. That's just my thought. But anyway, this movie, where are we going? What we're talking about here? So yeah, Margaret has, obviously has some issues. She's been abandoned. She has some issues with wanting to know what happens to her family. And along comes this guy, and he basically, reaches out to her on the internet or somehow like that, and social media, and basically says, he knows a little bit about her family and her past and her mother, more specifically. And that suckers her in, and then she decides to go with her friends Chris and Dale. Chris, it says here they're friends. Chris, they might be a little bit more than friends, but whatever, that's besides the point. But again, they say film crew. I don't know, 2 people make up a whole crew, but if you want to count her, 3, whatever. Go out into this, very abandoned place where these people are so-called Amish. And that's the basic explanation to why they're a little bit weird or different, or however you want to call it, than other people, and have their traditions and have their set in their ways and so forth. And they're there, and the 3 of them go and kind of get themselves acquainted into it, learn a little bit about the traditions or whatever, and then this other guy is supposed to fill her in a little bit on her mother, and she does. She gets a little bit of information here or there. Whether it's true or not, that's, for her to decide. But the longer they stay there, obviously things are going to become weirder and weirder. And obviously they're going to go and poke around in places they're not supposed to. All the things that you would expect to see. And let's say things start taking a turn when they find out there's an abandoned or weird looking church that is kind of hidden a little bit of ways away from where this settlement is, and obviously that piques their interest. Obviously they've seen some people walking around at night, so they're wondering where these people go. They must be going to this church, so we must investigate this church. And let's just say paranormal activity then starts kicking in more and more, and the audience will find out what is exactly happening here and why Margaret and her 2 friends are here and so forth, and bad things are going to happen. That's the, I guess, spoiler-free version of it. And so with that being said, are we seeing, I guess the question is, are we seeing anything new and brilliant here? Not really. I think we've seen other times where people go out into the woods. We've seen plenty of movies where people go out into the woods. But and find things that they weren't supposed to find a group of weird people or people that are different from them, let's just say that. They were obviously tricked, and not the first time people have been tricked to go out into the woods or out to be with a different group of people. I guess when we get to, what is happening here, the paranormal activity side of it, I guess using what they use, and I'm going to try to be as spoiler free here, for those who've seen the movie, maybe know more about the direction I'm going, but let's just say where everything, once you're inside the church, where everything is hidden, I guess, if you want to call that maybe a little bit of a difference, or I guess that makes it a little bit more challenging or a little bit more suspenseful as far as what is happening there. Obviously, you kind of know that scene towards the end, or in that place is going to kind of happen, just because they introduce it, so it's got to happen. So they do a decent job there of building up some suspense and tension and what's going to happen here and what is in this location. And then once, I guess, the paranormal activity, hits the fan, and they're running for their lives. It's okay. Again, you always have are you really carrying the camera, and who's carrying the camera, or who's filming this at this time, and all this craziness is going on. It's all okay. And you get to kind of see what is coming at them. it's not hidden, so you get to see that. Is that anything new and earth shattering? Not really. Uh, you get a couple of decent scenes out of it. Um, are the scares great in this movie? I don't think so. Uh, Certainly not to the level of anything you would have seen in probably the first three Paranormal Activity movies. Uh, you do have that one scene where we've seen it now in several horror movies, and I think it really worked well. The first time or two you probably saw it is where somebody kind of gets is kind of crawling on the floor, and all of a sudden they get dragged by their feet away, and I think of Quarantine, and I think that was one of the first times I really remember seeing that. I mean, I may have seen it in another movie, but that's one of the ones that kind of more stuck with me, and kind of getting dragged away in that kind of manner. It seemed creepy at the time, but now I've seen it happen so many times that it's like I've seen it. Not really scaring me. Scared, scary for the person involved, but scary for me watching, not really. So you're gonna get that. You're gonna have that. There's gonna be a scene where she's got the camera and weird things and noises are going on and whatsoever. But is it really truly scary? I don't think so. Even though they're filming it kind of found footage style, I just never really got it. I never really was never really feeling the feel of the found footage there, and I don't know. I don't know if that really means they shot it really that way, or they just shot it regularly and tried to play it off like it was found footage. I don't know. Whatever. It just really did nothing here for me, and I think you're gonna. They try to make you feel for at least Chris and Margaret there. Margaret all the scene trying to find her mom, and all sees is in the end fooled for being there. And then you kind of feel for Chris because he's trying to save her as this goes on. But again, I don't think you're, or at least I never got so attached to them that I was like, oh my god, they might die now. Thinking about it, I said, maybe going into this I was going to be harsh one way or the other. I can honestly, if the movie would have blown me away and I would have thought, hey, this was really awesome, I would have said, hey, I was pretty impressed by that, but I can't say that I was. And again, if you know me by now, I'm a little tougher when I think that it's a remake or I think it's a sequel that just didn't need to be made. I'm going to be harsh, and I'm going to be a little bit more judgmental here. Especially, one thing that always kind of gets under my skin is when a horror movie is made with a title like here, where we do Paranormal Activity, and it's made. And I look at it and I say, did you really have to name it Paranormal Activity? What is the true connection between this and anything else? Now, if they make like a sequel to this movie and say that somehow Margaret is connected to Katie and blah 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 and the cult, and this is cult here is related to the cult in one of the other movies and blah blah. If we're gonna go down all that revisionist thing, we need 2 or 3 movies to explain all that. Then maybe I'll circle back and bite my tongue if they do something like that and whatever. But this movie just has Paranormal Activity at the top for just no reason other than to say, hey, this is a Paranormal Activity, come over here and watch this movie, as opposed to calling it something else and having 5 people watch it. I think that's really where we're going here, and that always gets under my skin, and that always pisses me off. If you're gonna remake the movie and have something that has involvement in this whole thing, or some character or some plot of it or something, or just some connection somehow. You can't just say we're gonna do a found footage scary movie with some scares and that therefore is qualified as Paranormal Activity. I don't think so. I think of the latest Chucky remake movie. It didn't need to be Chucky. It could have created their own doll, and the movie would have worked just fine. Uh, it just didn't need to be. I liked a lot of stuff about that movie and the doll and the technology used there, but it didn't need to be Chucky. It could it's obviously easy to slap the Chucky name on it. Everybody's gonna go see it, but it could have been some other doll. And yeah, some people would have said you're ripping off Chucky here, but still, then it was an original movie in some part, and been fine. But instead, you have to throw Chucky in there, and then people are gonna go and see it. Just like you have to put Paranormal Activity here, and people are gonna see it. I don't know. I guess one thing I did like about the movies that is the kind of the setting. It was out there in the woods, but it was kind of winter time, and we've seen a little bit more of these movies here set in the winter time, and I don't know. There's just something nice to see a horror movie done and with the snow and everything like that. It's just a little bit different. A lot of times we see it in a summer setting or hot setting and just a bland setting, and to see that nice white snow. Could have used some more blood. I always say that nice white snow always needs that touch of blood to it, or a lot of touch of blood, and more blood spilled the better. But could have used some more of that in this movie. But it's about the scares and about the blood. But that goes good on the snow, and that would have worked. But yeah, I liked that. I liked the setting, and so forth. But yeah, I think I've made my point here with Paranormal Activity. I never mean to kind of discourage you guys from seeing it. See it, see what you guys think, see if you guys agree with me or not. I don't know how big of a fan of you guys are of Paranormal Activity. Or if you're just looking to be scared or whatever. Again, I didn't think it was particularly that scary. Gets a little, I think you get what you expect at the end of the movie. Obviously, things are going to get, the shit hits the fan or the ceiling, whatever you want to say. Obviously, they're going to be running for their lives from something. And so I think, you're going to get that. I think that's what's expected. But I think as far as getting a lot of scares leading up to that, I don't know. I don't think that it's there. I don't think that you're getting, I thought, the first couple of Paranormal Activity movies, you can go back there and look in there. Regardless of, like I said, the story that gets involved, there are some good quality scares in those movies. Whether they scared you or not, that's a different story, but at least good quality attempts to scare you. One that I always liked, I think it was part 2, is basically when the woman is sitting there in the kitchen and all of a sudden basically the kitchen explodes. That I can say that that's one of the few times that I actually almost jumped out of my seat. Just really didn't expect the kitchen to explode like that. But yeah, something to that level. I just don't think you're going to get it here. You're going to get some weirdness. Obviously, whenever you have like kind of religious kind of group of people here, they're going to be painted as weird, and some weird stuff is going to happen. You're going to have some weird moments. Probably the most interesting thing that probably happens here is the final kind of scene where, and I have to be very spoiler free when I say this, but I guess the last moments before the credits kind of roll is I guess the most interesting part. And again, to me that just tells me that they're leaving the door open. And again, why not leave the door open? If you're just going to do this kind of movie and slap Paranormal Activity name on it without it really having to be Paranormal Activity name, maybe we can just go on now and then just do, 3 or 4 movies. I mean, they can be involved with this one or just another whatever that they want to do now. Because that just seems to be what they're doing here. So I don't know. So I don't know if I think I've made my point. I know I keep harshing on this, but it's just aggravating. And I don't like coming on. I prefer, like I've said before, to come on and do reviews of movies that I liked, or at least point out things that I liked, and it's just short of that in this movie, and I'm just more aggravated and so forth. Anyway, so with that, I'm gonna end my aggravation here. I'm gonna give this movie 2 pools of blood, and that might even be generous here. I failed to mention it at the top, but you can catch this on Paramount Plus. If for those that are looking for it, I guess it'll be out on DVD and so forth sooner than later. And but that's where you can catch it if you're looking for it. Yeah, 2 Pools of Blood, and again, that's out of 5. And horrorgory-reviews.blogspot.com is where you can find more of my reviews. Written reviews are there, and obviously any of these video reviews are posted there as well. But if you need some written reviews as well, they are there. Subscribe to the channel if you're just looking for the video reviews. They're all here. Like if you want. I'm not really going to beg for it, but if you like it, like the video. If you dislike, hit dislike. I'm not going to bother me one way or the other. Let's see, Twitter, Facebook information down below as well. If you want to reach out to me and talk about this movie, there, I'm game to do so. If you want to talk about other horror movies or horror in general, we can do that there as well. And the comment section is there. You can comment on this movie, comment on this video, and or if you want to reach out to me to review something, please feel free to do so in the comment section, or even on Twitter. Twitter's probably the easiest way to do about that. But again, you can find that information down below. So, yeah, that's it for my Paranormal Activity Next of Kin ranting. So hopefully if they do another one, they can do better next time. And again, if you go to the blog, I'm not going to say I've reviewed every single Paranormal Activity movie. It's like I said, I didn't even see every single Paranormal Activity movie. But I believe the first 2 are there for sure, and maybe the third. I'm going to guess that much. Maybe if I remember, I'll put the links on here down below as well, but don't hold me to that. But yeah, so that's it for Paranormal Activity. Moving on. I will catch you on the next review, horror fans.